Ooh. Good morning, you motherfucking sunshines.
What's going on, party people? It's your boy Affilitiate back from another video. Today we're going to talk about some camera gear. One of the most requested things I get on social media these days is to go over the camera gear software I use to edit these videos. How do I bring these videos to you guys every damn day on the trail? It's a lot of gear that I carry, so that's what we're going to do today. Now, all the gear I have out here on the table in front of me is all the gear I have at my disposal. It's not all the gear I actually carry on a thru hike, but we're going to go through all of it. I will explain what I actually do carry on these long trails and what has worked for me to bring content to you guys every single day for thousands of miles on these long hikes. So without further ado, the camera I'm actually filming with now is actually my iPhone. It is an iPhone 12 Pro. It's the phone I carried on the CDT. Phones these days are amazing. Okay, if you're just thinking about getting into the vlogging game for through hiking purposes, I would say start with your phone. Okay, they all shoot 4K. They all have built-in slow motion, time lapses, and you're carrying it for navigation purposes anyway. Everybody's got a phone on them on the trail these days. So I would say start out using a phone. And if you like it, then you can start investing the money into all like legit camera gear if you so desire. But there's no sense in buying thousands of dollars of camera gear only to find out you don't like vlogging a trail, because it is a lot of work. I can say that firsthand. So main shooter I used was this camera right here. This is the Sony Alpha 7, or Alpha 7 III, the third version of the Alpha camera lineup. This is the same camera I used on the PCT as well, not the exact camera. I ended up losing that one in a snowbank up in Washington, so I got to replace them before I hit the CDT. The lens I carried 95% of the time on these through hikes is this 16-35 wide angle zoom lens. It did an amazing job. Served the purpose I needed it to serve for the majority of the stuff. I did carry extra lenses, which I will get to in a moment, but this lens lived on my camera most of the time. We're getting wide angle establishing shots, and you can zoom in at 35 millimeters, which is perfect for closer up things. For vlogging, it's amazing. It is a full frame camera, shoots 24 megapixel camera photos. Does shoot 4K. I only shoot in 1080 because the file sizes on 4K would be insane. I already carry a shit ton of storage as far as SD cards go. So if I were to shoot 4K, it would have I would have had to double up my SD card storage for storing all this footage. But the only thing I wish this camera had was a fully articulating screen. As you can see, this screen right here, the LCD, only is a tilt screen. All the Sony cameras going forward from this model will have articulating screens. The A7 IV, which I have in pre-order now, I should be getting soon, has an articulating screen on it, so I'm looking forward to that. As far as shooting POV style stuff, though, a lot of times if I was shooting me walking down the trail POV, having this tilt screen out, I would just hold it close to my body and try to walk as smooth as possible. This does have in-body stabilization, but it's not the greatest in the world. So I would just try to hold both hands, and with the tilt-up screen, I could shoot straight, and so the horizon wasn't tilted, and it did work well for that, as well as low-angle photography. I could put it down low to the ground, flip this thing up, and see what I was shooting to compose my shot. But having a fully articulating screen would have been a lot easier, mainly for when I was talking to the camera. I just held the camera by the lens like this and talked to it. Because that screen doesn't articulate, I never knew if my composition was good. I never knew if I was in focus, and I never knew if my exposure was on. So I had a lot of wasted shots because I was shooting blind a lot of the times. But it's what I had, so it worked fine. I did carry an ND filter on my lens. The lens I carried on the CDT was a company called Freewell. It's a 2 to 5 stop ND filter. If you're not familiar with those, they're just like sunglasses for your lens. Real happy with this camera. It can probably last an hour through. Like this camera actually held up the whole CDT. I did actually crack the LCD screen. I've had it replaced since I got home. Towards the end of the trail, I was only able to use the viewfinder itself, looking through the viewfinder, because my LCD screen was shot. Camera gear and through hikes don't really go together. Something's bound to happen on these things. You just baby them the best you can, but they break. So they're a tool for me. I use them and abuse them. If they break, they break. I'll replace them. But that is a Sony. Oh, one more thing. I did carry a little clip on the bottom. This is from a company called Peak Designs. I carried what's called the Peak Design capture clip. It just attaches right to your shoulder strap, and this little clip here allows you to clip in there, so I go hands-free when I wasn't using it. Quick release plate, just pull it out, take a shot, stick it back in the clip, and it just sat there hands-free. After a while, you don't even notice it's on your pack. You're just so accustomed to using it. So that's the main setup right there. I did carry a couple other lenses, which I'm going to go over right now. The first one being this lens right here. This is Sony 20mm 1.8 aperture. I use this only for astrophotography. That's the reason I bought it and carried it on the CDT. As you can see, it's pretty lightweight, pretty compact. But this thing just lived in my pack the majority of the time. I would only shoot the Milky Way around a new moon. So basically 3 to 5 times a month I would use this thing. Around a new moon when the sky was the darkest, so the Milky Way showed up brighter in the sky, is when I tried to shoot the Milky Way. Probably got a half a dozen shots with it. Other than that, it was just extra weight I was carrying and not using. But it was an experiment. I'm glad I carried it. Did get some good Milky Way shots with that lens. Very sharp lens, prime lens. Would be a good vlogging lens as well because it's very wide angle. The only other lens I carried on the CDT was this bad boy right here. This is the Sony 70-200 f4. They make a 2.8 version of this as well. It's probably double the price as this one, and it's a lot heavier. So this is a good compromise for carrying a telephoto on a thru hike. You won't see very many thru hikers carrying a lens this big, but I did. Mainly to get some extra reach. I wanted to take portraits of mountains that are way off in a distance. So that's what I mainly use this thing for photography. Never shot video with it. To shoot handheld with this focal length, the footage would have been shaky as hell. So this was mainly just for photography, as well as getting some wildlife shots, having a little bit more reach when you're not close up to an animal. I could just pull this thing out if the animal was cooperating and get a little closer shot on the animal. So I'm glad I carried it. Didn't use it as much as I thought I was going to, but you know, I'm glad I carried it for the shots I did get with this lens. So that's the 70-200. Other lenses that I do own that I did not carry on the CDT, I have a couple of them. 85mm 1.8. I actually love this lens. The 85mm focal length is traditional for like portraits. A lot of portrait wedding photographers use this. With the 1.8 aperture, you get a lot of good bokeh, blurred out background with this lens. I would say if you were hiking with a group, you wanted to take a lot of portraits of hikers, this lens would be amazing. It's fairly lightweight and it's fairly inexpensive when you look at the price of a lot of these other lenses. I think it goes for about $500, and the quality you get for that $500 is amazing. That's the 85. The only other lens I own was my most recent purchase. If you follow me on the CDT, you saw me obsessing. I would talk about getting into wildlife photography almost every day. So when I got off the trail, I wanted to purchase this lens, and I finally did. This is the Sony 200-600. I have a lens coat on there, camouflage. For wildlife, this thing I would never carry it for a thru hike. It's a monstrosity, a major piece of glass. But if you follow me on Instagram, all the recent shots I've thrown up on that platform have all been wildlife photography, birds, squirrels, deer, whatnot. I've taken all those photos with this lens. It is amazing for going out and shooting wildlife. I absolutely love that, and I'm glad I purchased it. The only other camera I carried on the CDT was my drone, which I have right here. This here is the carrying case. Not the carrying case that actually comes with the DJI Mavic Mini, but I purchased this one after the fact because it's a little bit smaller, a little more compact than the one they actually give you. But this is how I carried my drone in this carrying case. This Mavic Mini, this is the first version. This is the one I carried on the CDT. As you can see, the profile of it folded up is no bigger than your iPhone. So it's pretty damn small, good for hiking. And then the propellers just fold out like this, and it's still fairly small. Okay, they make better, more capable drones out there, obviously, but the biggest thing with the Mavic Mini, why it's perfect for backpacking, is this right here. It says 249 grams on it. The reason why that's so important is the law states that if it's 250 grams or heavier, you have to register these things with the FAA, as well as get a license to fly them. DJI is a pretty savage company, and they made it 249 grams, just under the limit, so that you don't have to register this thing and you don't have to get a license to fly it. So that's perfect. I didn't want to go through all that mess of getting a license for it and registering it and all that bullshit. So this allows me not to have to do that. So that is the first version. It shoots 2.7K. Like I said, they make more capable drones out there, but that one, for the reason, the way I use it, just to get a different perspective shot from above, that thing did just fine. I will say, because it is so small, it got tossed around the wind quite a bit. So on a windy day, I wouldn't plan on throwing that thing up in the air, or else you're going to lose it. Here's the controller it comes with. So the antenna is just fold out like this, And then these pop down like that. It's got a cable coming up right here. You just connect your smartphone to that, connect to the DJI Fly app, and then follow the prompts, and away you go. I will say, you know, I flew this thing almost every day in New Mexico, and it was a pain in the ass setting up, okay? It's not a major process, but just when you're through hiking and trying to push miles, setting this thing up did take some time. I would try to shoot in the morning, just when, you know, before I got going. I didn't want to have to stop in the middle of the trail midday and set this thing up. I did occasionally, but it was mostly in the morning, just get some establishing shots, and away I went. I have upgraded my drone since I got off the trail. I've got the newer version. This is the Mavic Mini. Basically the same profile as the original version, but the internals are a little beefier. They've upgraded. So the Mavic Mini original shoots 2.7K. This one shoots 4K video. It comes with this little prop guard, propeller guard, which was nice. I wish I had this on the original version to protect your propellers, because I did break quite a few of them on the CDT. The motors are in this one are a little bit better, so it holds up the wind a little bit better than the original version. And the connection you get to the app itself is a lot stronger. I lost signal constantly with the original Mavic Mini because it uses only Wi-Fi. This uses what's called OcuSync 2.0. I know a lot of camera jargon. Basically a better connection from the controller to the app, so you don't lose signal quite as much. Only other camera that I own that I did not carry on the CDT is, here it is right here. I have the DJI Pocket 2. Now, I bought this thing, I was going to try it out on the CDT. I didn't really give it enough time playing around with it before I hit the trail to actually use it. I didn't feel comfortable with it. It is a very small setup to where if you wanted to use this for a through hike, it's very small, and it is a gimbal so that you get really smooth footage with it. What I didn't like about this thing, just playing around with it, is how small the screen is. It is swipeable, so you can change all your settings right on the screen itself, but it's so small, it's hard to see. And as well as you cannot swap batteries out on this thing. So the battery life on this thing is pretty horrid. You get like an hour and a half of battery life, and then you just got to plug it in, let it charge to use it again. So as much as I film on the trail, I wouldn't get enough use out of it. The battery would die and I'd be stuck charging it in my pack and not being able to use it. But it's something I've held on to. I might play around with a little bit more in the future, but it's one of those things I wasn't willing to carry to use it for an hour and a half and then the battery is dead. Okay, little odds and ends. Battery storage for audio on my camera I use this is a Dead Cat Rode Video Micro. No batteries necessary. You just plug this right, it goes into your hot shoe of your camera, and this plugs into the auxiliary audio port on your camera itself, and away you go. As far as battery life goes, my Sony camera batteries, I carried one in the camera obviously, and then I carried 2 extra ones. The Sony batteries are pretty damn good. You can buy aftermarket ones. I have this one's from a company called Watson, and I have a Sony native one here. I generally got at least a day's footage out of one single battery, so having 3 was more than enough to get me in the next town typically. As far as battery banks go, I actually own 3. This is the one I used on the AT. This is 10,500 milliamp hours. For the PCT, I upgraded to 20,000, and I actually have a 13,000 as well. I have found, rather than carrying these 2 here, I'd rather just carry the one big one, the 20,000, and this generally got me to the next town. As far as charging my headlamp, iPhone, if my camera batteries were dead, this was usually enough to get me in the next town. Storage capacity, 4 SD cards. I carried a Pelican waterproof case, hard case. This thing holds 12 SD cards, as well as my Sony can carry 2 at one time. So I had 2 in the camera at all times, 12 in this case, and then I have 1 extra one here. So it is a lot of storage. Most of these are 128 gigs, some are 64, but I filled up every single one of these cards on the CDT. This is the iPad I carried on the PCT, the full-size iPad. You can see what happened to the screen. It got just completely annihilated by the end of the trail on the PCT. I could barely edit off of this thing. For the CDT, I upgraded, downgraded, whatever you want to say, to the Mavic Mini, something a little bit smaller. This one actually held up, carried a rugged case on it, waterproof. I actually carried this in a Ziploc bag as well for extra protection. But this is what I use to edit my photos as well as video on. The software I use to edit video is an app called Lumafusion for mobile devices only. So I have it on my phone as well. I find having the extra real estate on an iPad is a lot easier for me to edit video. So Lumafusion, amazing software. There's plenty of videos out there on YouTube. You can research that on your own. And then for editing photos, I use Lightroom Mobile on my iPad as well to edit all my photos. Now, for the music I use in my videos, I get that question a lot. I use a site called Epidemic Sound. It is a subscription based site. I pay $15 a month. What I do before I hit these through hikes is I go through Epidemic Sound. There's 30,000 songs on there, sound effects, everything else. I go through all that before I hit these trails, download a bunch that I think I might want to use. I can sync that up with Lumafusion within the app and just pull songs as I need them. I would always add the song after I edit a video to match the vibe of the video to the music itself. So that's how I did that. Little odds and ends I carried. Obviously all the cords that go along with the stuff. I did carry an Anchor brick here with 4 ports on it so that when I hit the town, got in a hotel, I was just taking up one outlet and I could plug in most of my devices and charge them all at one time. As far as tripod goes, this is the little tripod I carried on the CDT. Worked out well. This is a company called Small Rig. I can't remember the name of the model of it, but it worked out well up until the very end. One of these legs got really loose, this one here, so that when I was setting up camera shots to walk past the camera, this one would slide a lot. It became a pain in the ass. I couldn't tighten it for whatever reason. The thread got stripped, so I wasn't able to tighten that leg, so this one kind of just flopped around. But it worked out well. There's a little sewn-in loop on my sternum strap. With this thing, I could just slide it right down there, go hands-free when I needed to use it. Just pull it out. I carry an Arca Swiss plate on here. Same thing that it works with my clip on my camera, so I just put the clip in there, tighten it down, and away you go. For other electronics, I use this Petzl Bindi. Very minimalistic, just got a little drawstring cord on here. Worked out well. I don't do a shit ton of night hiking, so I didn't really need something bigger. This doesn't use AA or AAAs. It's just rechargeable only. So USB-C, just plug in the cord into my power bank. I charge that. Has a red light on it, blinking light. Worked just fine for what I use it for. And then for basically just an SOS button, I carried a Garmin Inreach Mini. This connects to an app on your phone called EarthMate. You can download all the maps, which I did. As I got to each state, I would download them for the state I was in. There's only a couple of times I needed to use this for navigation when Gut Hook, now Far Out guides wasn't working properly. I would reference the map on EarthMate to find out where I was. But mostly this was just for SOS. You can send text messages out with a subscription if you wanted to do that. I didn't really use that feature a lot either. This is, like I said, mainly for SOS. In case shit hits the fan and I need to get a helicopter out of there, I can hit that SOS button and get me the fuck out of a dangerous situation. It's a lot to take in, I know. I've developed a system over the last 3 trails to where this stuff works for me. I've got it down pretty good to where I can push content out for you guys every day on trail. It is a full-time job. I ain't gonna lie. It's a lot of work involved behind the scenes that you guys don't get to see. But for me personally, it is worth it so that I can get content out to you guys every single day on trail. Don't take this as you need all this shit to vlog a through hike. Obviously, this is above and beyond what most people are willing to carry. I personally am maybe a psychopath and I'm willing to carry this weight because I love doing this for you guys and I will continue to do it in the future. Until the next time, this is your boy, IB Tat. We'll holler at you fuckers later. All my bones are dislocated, I just keep